Look at this image. Zac Efron's face, red, swollen, almost unrecognizable. It exploded across social media, bouncing from gossip pages to meme accounts, with millions asking the same question. What on earth happened to him? Was it plastic surgery gone wrong? A bad reaction? Or has Zac Efron completely lost the boyish good looks that made him famous? For nearly 2 decades, Zac has been one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. His looks were his ticket into stardom, his weapon in box office battles, and his curse when age, accidents, and unhealthy standards began to change them. But every time his face or body shifted, the internet didn't just notice, it judged. And nowhere was that more visible than in this viral image. So is this picture real? Before we answer that, we need to go back. Because to understand why people even believe something like this could be true, you have to trace the journey of Zac Efron's body, the way it was built up, broken down, and sold to Hollywood. Zac Efron didn't just become famous because he could sing and act. He became famous because of how he looked. From the moment High School Musical premiered in 2006, his face was plastered on bedroom walls, magazine covers, and gossip blogs. He wasn't just a teen star. He was a product packaged and sold to a generation of screaming fans. Talk show hosts didn't ask about his craft. They flirted with him. Red carpet interviews rarely touched on his acting. They treated him like a trophy on display. He was no longer just Zac Efron the actor. He was Zac Efron the image. And Zac would learn that lesson brutally when the system demanded he push himself to extremes, turning his body into both his greatest weapon and his biggest liability. By the time Zac landed Baywatch in 2017, his career was at a crossroads. He was no longer the teenage heartthrob, but Hollywood still wanted him to play the same role, just with a bigger, sharper, and more impossible body. The studio needed him shredded, leaner than ever, standing next to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as if he could go muscle for muscle with the biggest action star in the world. And Zac delivered. On screen, his veins popped in every frame, and his physique became the talk of the movie more than the script itself. But behind the scenes, the truth was brutal. To achieve that level of definition, he followed a suffocatingly strict diet, plain protein, steamed vegetables, almost no carbs, and trained for hours every single day. He later admitted that to stay camera ready he used diuretics, a dangerous shortcut that flushes water from the body to make muscles appear sharper. The result, his sleep collapsed. He struggled with anxiety and slid into depression. When the camera stopped rolling, it took him nearly half a year to feel like himself again. And when he looked back at the Baywatch wax figure of his own body, he called it too big, too unrealistic, and warned fans not to try to emulate it. If Baywatch was the role that broke Zac's body, the Iron Claw was the one that rebuilt it into something unrecognizable. Playing a real-life wrestler, Kevin Von Erich required a completely different look. He wasn't supposed to be lean and beach-ready anymore. He needed to look like a tank, a man who spent his life inside a wrestling ring, grappling with giants. When the first set photos leaked in 2022, fans were stunned. Zac's shoulders were wider, his chest thicker, his entire frame carrying the bulk of a professional wrestler. He looked like he had aged into a different species, far removed from the high school basketball star or the Baywatch lifeguard. The internet lit up immediately. How did he put on that much size so fast? Speculation came rushing in. Some fans praised his dedication to the role, while others whispered about performance-enhancing drugs, pointing to his thicker face, wider jaw, and even the distended stomach that critics associated with HGH. None of this was ever confirmed. Zac himself never admitted to anything, but the rumors spread like wildfire. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Zac himself once acknowledged that he had used diuretics and extreme methods to achieve his Baywatch body. That admission made the new transformation even more suspicious to the public. If he'd pushed himself beyond the limit once before, what wouldn't he do to get there again? But what often gets lost in the noise is his performance in the Iron Claw was one of the most respected of his career. Critics praised his ability to capture the vulnerability beneath the muscles, the tragedy beneath the spectacle. Yet once again, the conversation online wasn't about his acting. It was about his body. Zac Efron delivered the role of his life, but Hollywood and the internet were still obsessed with the same thing they'd always been: how he looked, not what he did. If Zac's body was a battlefield, his face became the internet's favorite target. In April 2021, he appeared in a virtual Earth Day special alongside Bill Nye. But instead of people focusing on climate change, all eyes went to Zac's jawline. His face looked fuller, his chin squared, his cheeks swollen in a way fans had never seen before. He was called Handsome Squidward. Memes compared him to animated villains, and even The Weeknd's parody plastic surgery look. What should have been a forgettable streaming appearance turned into one of the most viral moments of his career. At first, Zac stayed silent. He let the speculation run its course, and speculation always runs ugly. Plastic surgery rumors exploded. Tabloids claimed botched fillers. Some even argued his new look meant he was hiding something darker. Even his own mother reportedly called him, asking if he had secretly gone under the knife. More than a year later, Zac finally explained. Back in 2013, he'd shattered his jaw in a freak accident, slipping in his home, smashing his chin on granite. He required his jaw to be wired shut, survived on liquids for weeks, and relied on physical therapy to retrain the muscles in his face. But when he took a break from therapy, the masseter muscles, the ones responsible for chewing, overcompensated and grew larger. That, he said, is why his jaw looked so different during the Earth Day special. But here's the tragedy. By the time he told that story, it didn't matter. The damage was done. His once envied face had become a cultural joke. To really understand why Zac Efron's face became such a fixation, you have to rewind to where it all started. Back in 2006, High School Musical turned a small Disney Channel project into a global phenomenon. Overnight, Zac went from being a promising kid actor to the most recognizable teen idol in the world. His floppy hair, his boy next door smile, his clean-cut image, it all became the stuff of magazine covers and bedroom posters. But fame at that level comes with strings attached. Even when he tried to take on slightly different roles like Hairspray or 17 Again, Hollywood only saw him one way: as the heartthrob. Every script that landed on his desk seemed to orbit the same character: charming, good-looking, a safe crush. From the very beginning, Zac wasn't treated like an actor who happened to be attractive. He was treated like an image who happened to act. And that difference would haunt every stage of his career. By the early 2010s, Zac Efron was trying to break free of the teen idol box. Movies like Neighbors made this strategy obvious. The film leaned on his physique for both comedy and sex appeal, and the marketing campaign plastered shirtless Zac across posters as if he were a product to be sold. And it worked. The movie made nearly $270 million worldwide. That year, he was even awarded Best Shirtless Performance at the MTV Movie Awards. Zac knew he couldn't keep being the punchline forever. He wanted to be respected as more than just a body, so he started choosing roles that looked nothing like his Disney past. Charlie St. Cloud pushed him into grief and tragedy. The Lucky One transformed him into a hardened Marine, forcing him to bulk up and carry himself with military seriousness. For both roles, he trained, studied, and poured himself into the craft. Things began to shift with The Greatest Showman. Suddenly, Zac was back in a musical, but this time not as the boyish high schooler. He was a confident adult performer, singing, dancing, and holding his own against Hugh Jackman. The film exploded into a worldwide hit, and for once, the focus wasn't just on how he looked, but what he could do. Then came one of the riskiest choices of his career, portraying serial killer Ted Bundy in extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. The role was controversial, with some critics accusing the movie of romanticizing Bundy. But Zac's performance earned praise. He embodied the unsettling charm that allowed Bundy to manipulate people while hiding his darkness. It proved Zac could handle complex, morally gray roles. While Zac fought to prove himself on screen, off-screen he was battling demons that were far more dangerous than bad reviews. The pressures of fame, the constant public scrutiny, and the impossible standards placed on his body all began to take their toll. Like many in Hollywood, he turned to substances, first casually, then as a crutch. By 2013, he checked himself into rehab for alcohol and drug issues. At the time, the public barely knew what was happening. He was still showing up in movies, still smiling on red carpets. But behind the scenes, his friends and family were deeply concerned. He relapsed not long after and had to go back to treatment again. But this period revealed something crucial about his story. Beneath the glossy image and the sculpted body, he was just another person crushed by the weight of impossible expectations. And while the public only caught glimpses of that struggle, it reshaped the man he would become in the years to follow. After years of being cast as the perfect poster boy or the flawless, shirtless idol, Zac tried something new. But Hollywood doesn't stay quiet for long, and soon, Zac would find himself dragged right back into the same debate that had haunted him for years. His face, his body, and what they meant for his career. Let's go back to where we started. The photo that sent the internet into a frenzy. The image of Zac with a bright red, swollen face spread across social media like wildfire. It was shocking, exaggerated, and almost too strange to believe. And yet millions did. People pointed to it as proof of botched surgery, steroid abuse, or some new collapse in his health. So is it real? No. That photo is digitally altered, a parody made for clicks. It didn't come from a red carpet, a film set, or even a paparazzi lens. It came from a satire page that thrives on outrageous edits designed to go viral. But here's the more important point. People believed it, and that tells us something about his career, about Hollywood, and about us. Because Zac Efron has changed so much over the years, his body has bulked, shrunk, hardened, and broken. His face has been praised, mocked, memed, and dissected that the public was ready to accept even the most absurd image as reality. If Zac's past was defined by how perfectly he could fit Hollywood's impossible image, then his future will depend on how quickly he can escape it. He's already proven he can. The Iron Claw showed audiences a bulked up, almost unrecognizable Zac Efron. But it wasn't just the body that caught attention. It was the performance, the pain, the discipline, the vulnerability beneath the muscle. For the first time in years, critics were talking about what he did on screen, not just what he looked like. That's the path forward. The truth is, his body already bought him freedom. The poster boy years gave him a platform. The question now is whether he cashes that in to build a career that lasts or spends the next decade fighting to preserve an image that was never meant to survive. So, did Zac Efron sell his body to Hollywood? In a way, yes. He played the game, and for years, his face and physique were his most valuable assets. They opened doors, won headlines, and kept him relevant in an industry that punishes anyone who dares to look ordinary. But the other side of the story is this. Hollywood bought his body before he ever had the chance to sell it. From High School Musical to Baywatch, the system decided what he was worth and demanded he deliver it, over and over again. But here's the reality. Zac Efron is still here. He survived the idle years, the addictions, the ridicule, and the transformations. He's shown flashes of real artistry, and he's still only in his 30s. Young enough to reinvent himself, old enough to stop playing Hollywood's game. The choice is no longer about his body. It's about whether we, the audience, are ready to let go of the poster and respect the performer. Because as long as we keep rewarding the spectacle, Hollywood will keep demanding the sacrifice. So the question isn't really, did Zac Efron sell his body to Hollywood? It's, did we buy it?